My mom threatened to kick me out unless I split my dad's college fund. So I exposed her lies, moved out at 18, kept it all, and won. I'm a 17-year-old girl living in a mixed family that's not quite mixed enough to blend smoothly. My mom, 43 and still rocking her youthful vibe, married my stepdad about 3 years ago, though they dated for nearly 5 years before tying the knot. The ceremony felt more like checking a box than starting a new chapter. Let's just say it wasn't the blast-off to happily ever after that some people might expect. Now, about my step-siblings, there's Jackson, a year older than me, and Emma, who's 2 years younger. We all attend the same high school, yet our circles don't overlap. It's like we're in different orbits in the same solar system. Close, but not touching. Before we dive deeper into the present, let's backtrack to the backstory. My mom and dad were never married. My dad died when I was just a toddler, too young to really remember him. From what I've pieced together, he was a rebel who fell hard for my mom, the life of any party. But his family wasn't fond of her free spirit. They had his future mapped out, and my mom wasn't part of that picture. My dad's health took a nosedive when he was diagnosed with leukemia, already in the late stages when they caught it. He was only 27, and suddenly, the countdown started. The good part? He managed to set up an education fund for me before he passed. That fund became my golden ticket, a promise of future stability that my mom swore was mine alone to use when the time came. Fast forward to when I was 8, and enter my stepdad. He showed up not long after we moved towns, a decision my mom made because staying in the place where she and my dad met was too much for her heart to handle. With him came Jackson and Emma, carrying their own baggage from a mom who ditched them post-divorce to chase a new love story. My stepdad was left to pick up the pieces. I had hopes, like any kid. The idea of suddenly having a bigger family seemed like hitting the jackpot. A new dad, a brother, and a sister. It sounded like the perfect setup for family movie nights and holiday card photos. But reality checked in soon enough. The whole family vibe never clicked. Living under the same roof didn't make us family. We were more like housemates who just happened to share some DNA through marriage. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they were mean or anything. There was no overt drama, no shouting matches over dinner. It was something subtler, like a constant buzz you can't pinpoint but can't ignore either. It didn't help that the energy was way off. My stepdad and his kids connected in a way that just didn't include me. I tried, believe me. I made efforts to join in, to stir up some kind of bond, but every attempt felt like throwing a rock across a frozen lake, hoping it wouldn't just skid and settle without making an impact. My mom, though, was a different story. They embraced her, loved her in ways I couldn't help but envy. I wondered if it was because in their eyes, she replaced their nightmare of an ex-wife and mom who, as the town's whispers went, was more gold digger than caregiver. The whole setup left me feeling like a guest in my own life. Not mistreated, but misplaced, like a puzzle piece from a different box. Observing all this as I grew up, I couldn't shake the feeling of being the odd one out. It was like everyone else got the manual on how to be a family, and I got the wrong edition. Despite all this, I never really talked about it. What was there to say? That I felt left out? That it seemed like they were a family before I came and would be a family whether I was there or not? It sounded petty, even to my ears. As I got older, these feelings didn't exactly fade, but I got better at managing them. I figured maybe it was all in my head, maybe I was just the introspective type, making mountains out of molehills. But deep down, I knew I was missing something vital. A connection, a sense of belonging. My room became my sanctuary, the one place where I could drown out that buzz, that constant reminder that I was an add-on to an already established group. As high school rolled on, I threw myself into studies and plans for college. That fund my dad left became more than just money, it became my ticket out. My hope for a fresh start where I could define family on my own terms. Things went on like this until one evening, just a regular Tuesday, when my mom decided to drop a bomb, not the dramatic kind, just a heavy one. We were clearing up after dinner, the hum of the dishwasher blending with my thoughts, when she said we needed to talk. She had that tone, the one that meant something big was stirring, something that could shake up my carefully laid plans. She started off with how proud she was of me, looking to graduate soon, how I'd grown into someone she admired, compliments that, under any other circumstance, would have warmed me. But that night, they felt like a lead-in to something tougher, and I was right. She told me that my stepfather hadn't been able to save money for his kids to go to college, so she needed me to help my family out by letting my step-siblings use the money from my college fund as well. Jackson had taken a gap year and was about to start college at the same time as me, so that's what the conversation was really about. Legally, my mother couldn't control the funds because, in his will, my father had clearly stated that only I would be able to control where I spent my money after I turned 18. If I'm being honest, I didn't want to share the money with my step-siblings. For starters, I didn't consider them family, and I'm sure they didn't either. Secondly, Even if I didn't end up using the entire amount my father had left for me, I would still like to use it for myself. That kind of money could really help me get a head start, be useful when I get my own apartment and stuff, until I start earning. I had already saved a lot since I went to public school instead of private, and my mother didn't have to spend any money on my education so far. I was also a really good student, so I was hoping to get a scholarship at whichever college I decided to apply to and enroll in. Money had never been a matter of concern for me, but now that I was getting older and about to turn 18 in a few months, I was starting to think about saving and earning. So, giving away money from my funds to my step-siblings didn't sound like a great idea. I told my mother that I wouldn't be sharing those funds with them because I didn't think it was necessary. If Jackson really wanted to go to college, he could do what millions of kids do anyway and get a student loan. My mother was not pleased with my answer and said I was being selfish. I didn't even disagree, I was indeed being selfish, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. So, instead of arguing with her, I just told her that I was being selfish, and it was completely fine, because I didn't consider my step-siblings family. That's when my mother started screaming at me because apparently she believed that what I had said was no less than a criminal offense. It took me a few seconds to even process the fact that she was losing her mind simply because I had spoken the truth, and told her that I didn't think of my step-siblings as family. The double standards were crazy because, on one hand, the family had been treating me like an outsider for the past 8 years, and she had never seemed to notice it, or maybe she didn't notice it and just didn't care. But when it came to me, I had to consider them family and treat them as such for absolutely no reason. I tried to speak to her calmly, without screaming in her face, but there was no point because she was already going off on me, calling me ungrateful and whatnot. So, I waited for her to finish yelling at me, and then I told her that she could scream at me all she wanted, but I wasn't going to change my mind. The only thing that screaming at me was going to accomplish was to alienate me even more and make me feel even less inclined to help them out in any capacity. My mother calmed down a little after I said that, and I thought we were finally going to have a rational discussion afterward, and I would finally be able to voice my feelings. But that was foolish of me. I had forgotten that in that household, my feelings absolutely didn't matter, and all that mattered was whether my mother, my stepfather, and my step-siblings were happy. My happiness was not very important to any of them. So, after my mother calmed down, she told me that I had a week to make up my mind, but after that, she would be forced to kick me out of the house. I thought she was joking because it was simply ridiculous, but she told me that she wasn't. Since my birthday was coming up in less than a month, she would soon not even be legally obliged to let me live with them because I wouldn't be a minor anymore. So, I would be out of the house and completely on my own if I didn't agree to share the college fund that my father had specifically left just for me with my step-siblings. I could hardly believe that my own mother would say such a thing and put me in such a difficult position just for the sake of my step-siblings when I was supposed to be her own flesh and blood. She told me to tread carefully and think this over because this decision could cost me everything. Then she left the room while I sat there and tried to process what she had just said. It was incredibly insulting to be treated that way by my own mother, and that day, I made up my mind that I was going to get out of this house no matter what the cost. So, I started talking to my friends, and told them that I needed help to find an apartment of my own, because I was planning to move out for my 18th birthday. I told them everything my mother had said, and explained the urgency of the situation to them. I knew that once I turned 18, I would get all the money, and then I would be able to control where I spent it. Yes, I would have to stick to a budget and choose my degree in college very carefully, but it was worth it because that meant I would at least be able to move out and live on my own, instead of putting up with my family, or rather forcing them to tolerate me. After that conversation with my mother, it was clearer than ever that I was not welcome in that house at all, and I really was an afterthought. All these years I had not been overthinking anything. In fact, I might have even been underthinking things because I really hadn't seen this coming. A couple of days passed, and a friend of mine told me that she had been able to speak to a cousin who was also applying to the same colleges as me because we had an interest in the same field. She was planning to live in an apartment because she wanted to be independent from the beginning, and my friend suggested that I get in touch with her. If we ended up going to the same college, we could rent an apartment together and live there. I felt that it was a great idea, and got in touch with my friend's cousin almost immediately. We worked out everything, and I told her about my situation as well. She seemed to be very empathetic, and I could tell that she was a nice person, and I would get along with her. So that part was all sorted out, and the only thing I had to worry about was where I would live until college started, since there were quite a few months to go before that. But it turned out to be pretty easy for me to figure that one out, because my friends told me that I could live with them until college finally started. It was a messy and risky plan, but I was willing to go through with it because anything would be better than living with my mother and these people. The way I was being treated after that fight with my mom was horrible. I don't mean horrible in the sense that they were speaking to me badly or torturing me or anything, but what they were doing was far more humiliating. They had all ganged up on me and were acting like I was the single most disgusting creature to ever exist. If I entered a room, everybody would instantly stop talking and go back to their own rooms. They would give me the side eye all the time and refuse to even speak to me, like I had done something wrong. It was humiliating, and I felt like running away because it just felt so bad. It took me a while to arrange something for myself, but I made up my mind that as soon as my friends were ready to take me in, I would leave this place. So, the day my mother spoke to me again to ask if I had changed my mind, I decided to tell her the truth and then leave. I told her that I had not changed my mind, as a matter of fact, and that I would actually be leaving this place. I told her that the way she and her family had been treating me for the past week was nothing short of psychotic, and I couldn't put up with it anymore. I told her that I had already spoken to a couple of friends, and I would be living with them until I could start college and move away from here. I said that I never wanted to see her again, so she was free to kick me out, and it wouldn't make a difference to me. I already had a plan in mind. I wasn't very surprised when my mother started yelling at me once more and told me that I needed to get out of her house because this was no place for selfish, ungrateful brats like me. I left pretty gladly and was happy to see the last of them. But that wasn't the end of the road for my plan. During the time I had been spending in my room all by myself, I had been thinking of ways to get back at my mother. Ever since she got married to my stepfather, life had changed for me, and not in a good way, but she didn't even seem to care about it, because she was happy with her new family. I had tried to be happy for her and suppressed my own feelings about this. But now it was very obvious that she didn't care about me in general, and her stepkids were more important to her than me. The way she had been treating me made me feel like crap, and I had made up my mind that I was not going to let this go unanswered. So, as soon as I was out of the house, I decided to spill the beans on her and let everybody know what kind of person she really was. The only reason I had even waited a week to get out of her house and then speak about her ridiculous demands was because I didn't want her to have any access to me to even tell me how disappointed she was in me or whatever. Nobody in their right mind would ever support the things she had said to me, and I knew that once I had moved in with a friend, I could go online and make a post about my mother. I typed out the incident that took place and how my mother had been screaming at me just because I didn't want to contribute to my step-siblings' college fund. I also mentioned that none of them had ever treated me like family, but my mother never seemed to have a problem with that. It was only a problem when I did the same thing to them. I talked about the double standards. I also mentioned how she had practically forgotten about me once she started living with her new family, and I said that I found her to be the single most selfish being on this planet, because of the way she had been behaving with me, just for saying no to something completely ridiculous. Any sane person in my position would have said no, since the money she had been talking about had been left to me specifically by my father. It was not for anybody else to use, and I didn't think it was fair to demand that I share it with people who never made me feel like part of their family. I might have even considered it if my step-siblings had been nice to me at any point, but that was not the case here. I was really frustrated, and I let out all my frustration in that one post. I knew that this negatively impacted my mother since I had a lot of people who followed me, including my father's friends and their kids. But at the time, I just didn't care, and I wanted to get back at her. Truth be told, she had been my only source of support and happiness throughout my life, because I had only one parent to count on, and my grandparents weren't really in touch with me. She had been my first and most important friend, so when she chose my step-siblings over me, it felt like a huge betrayal. I was really hurt, and I just wanted to get it all out of my system without caring about the consequences. So I made that post, and exactly what I had expected would happen is what happened. I received several messages from my mother saying that I had ruined her life because everyone had seen that post, and it had been shared numerous times. My mother was pretty popular among her circle of friends, so there was no big surprise that people were just looking for an excuse to gossip about her, and I had played right into their hands. She had tried to call me several times, but I didn't answer any calls, and neither did I respond to any texts. I was just miserable, and I had hoped that making that post would make me feel less upset, but the messages my mother sent me after that only made me feel worse about my decision. I could tell through her texts that she was really torn up about this. She said things like she never expected me to do something like this, that she had believed she had raised me to be kind and compassionate, but I was the opposite of both those things, and she couldn't even believe that I was her daughter anymore. Then she pulled out the big guns, and told me that had my father been alive today to witness this vindictive and malicious side of me, he would be terribly disappointed, and wouldn't even want to be related to me. That really got to me, and I felt like I was doing something horrible. I started rethinking everything, and that's what brought me here eventually. At this point, I don't even know if it was right of me to not want to share my funds with my step-siblings. I don't know if I should make things right with my mother and the others because I don't even know if I can face them anymore after what I did. But also, this might be a very clever way of trying to manipulate me, and if it is, it's definitely working. That's why I need you guys to help me, because now that everybody has the facts, I can finally come to a conclusion. So, am I the asshole for refusing to share my college fund with my step-siblings and then making a post against my mother? Rat date, 1 cent. Hi, so first, thank you so much for the response. A lot of you sent me really kind messages, and it made me feel better about myself and what I did. I guess I needed that to see things for what they truly are. I was about to give my mother a chance again just because I wanted to see the good in her, and I wanted to believe that she wasn't a bad person. But what kind of mother says and does the things that she did? She's just not a good person, and it's time that I accepted it instead of trying to fight it, so I blocked her to make sure that she couldn't reach out to me again. I knew that if she texted me again, it would only be to manipulate me or to get that post down. I don't want to take that post down. I want it to stay up, at least until she apologizes to me. She knows where I am because my friend's mother told her that I was living with them, so she knows where to reach me. In spite of knowing, if she doesn't reach out to me, I'll take it as a sign that she doesn't care about me, and that she cares more about her own reputation. Update 2. So, it's been 2 weeks since I've been living with my friend, and have moved out from my stepfather's house. After that post, I had absolutely zero contact with everyone from my family. I did go to school a couple of days and ran into Emma a few times, but she just shot me a really nasty look and pretended like I wasn't even there. Not surprising, considering they're pretty much experts in pretending that I don't exist. They've been doing it for the past 8 years, they must have found it easier now. Anyway, my mother finally came to visit me last evening. She arrived here with a black plastic bag that people generally use for trash and dumped it in the living room, saying that it had all my leftover stuff in it. Basically, everything I hadn't been able to pack into my duffel bag when I was leaving the house. It felt a little insulting that she had used a trash bag to pack my stuff, and it was way more insulting when she dumped it all on the floor of the living room, leaving me to gather it. My friend and her parents, who saw this all unfold, were scandalized. They did not appreciate my mother's behavior one bit and actually took it upon themselves to argue with her about it. They told her that, considering I was her only daughter, she should have more compassion for me, instead of treating me so cruelly. They really scolded her, but she didn't take it kindly. She told them that they had no right to speak about her parenting techniques when they were the ones harboring a delinquent like me. I almost burst out laughing when she said that because I was far from a delinquent. I was literally a scholar student, and she had known that. I almost mentioned it myself, but I didn't have to, thanks to my friend who stood up for me. She told my mother off, and said that she was grateful her parents were nothing like my mother and had a heart. It turned into a bit of a catfight, after which my mother got really huffy and left. I was really thankful for my friend and her parents. I don't think it was really necessary for them to stand up for me, but they did, and I couldn't be happier about it. This is probably the first time in my life that I had somebody fight for me on my behalf, and it was just really touching. But anyway, I don't think my mother will be coming back anytime soon because, after the welcome she received yesterday, I wouldn't dare show up around here again, and I really hope she doesn't show up because I'm just sick of the drama now. I want to move on with my life and start a new chapter, but I can't do that if she keeps showing up again and again. So, I pray and hope that this is the last time I have come across her. Update 3. Hey folks. So long time no see. I've been missing in action for quite a while now, a couple of months I think, but you can't blame me for it. It was because I was applying to colleges and trying to get into a good one with a scholarship. I had been grinding really hard, and it all paid off. I'm in my first choice of school now, and yes, I'm sticking to the plan I had come up with a couple of months ago. My friend's cousin, who was applying to the same colleges, also got in here, and we're going to rent an apartment and live together. She's a really sweet girl, and the fact that she's my friend's cousin is just the cherry on top because this way, I get to keep in touch with everyone. The last couple of months have been very difficult for me emotionally, but my friends helped me get through it all, and I can't tell you guys how thankful I am to have such people in my life. I know a lot of people who have terrible parents and families rely on their friends for emotional support, but I had tried to avoid that so far. However, now that I know how far my friends are willing to go for me, I feel like they are my family. I'm always going to be grateful for everything that people have done for me. Seriously, I don't think I could have made it this far without everybody's help, and that includes the people here who reached out to me through messages and said such supportive things to help me through. It's just really strange and funny how little strangers on the internet did more for me than my mother did. But anyway, that's all in the past now. I'm looking forward to having a fresh start here, and I'm really excited for what the future holds. Update 444. Hey everyone. I didn't think I'd be back with another update so soon. But life has a way of throwing unexpected stuff at you, I guess. I thought I was done with all the drama from my family after moving out and starting college, but it looks like I was wrong. Things have gotten way more complicated than I ever expected, and honestly, I'm just exhausted. A few weeks ago, out of nowhere, I got a message from my stepdad. Yeah, the same stepdad who barely acknowledged my existence when I was living with them. He sent this long, rambling text about how he was sorry for how things had gone down and how he wanted to meet up to talk. At first I didn't know what to think. Why was he suddenly reaching out now after all this time? Part of me wanted to ignore him, but another part was curious. Maybe he had something important to say. So, I figured, why not? I agreed to meet him at a cafe near my campus. When I got there, the whole situation felt awkward. He was sitting there, looking nervous, and I could tell this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. After some small talk, he finally got to the point. He told me that he had no idea my mom was going to kick me out over the college fund. He said she'd made that decision without even consulting him, and when she told him afterward, they had a massive fight. He looked genuinely upset as he told me this, saying that things had been really tense at home since I left. Apparently, my mom has been putting a lot of pressure on him to contribute more financially, even though he's still trying to recover from the financial mess his ex-wife left him in. He confessed that he's been questioning their entire relationship ever since I moved out, and that he's even considering getting a divorce. That was a lot to take in. I never really thought much about their marriage, but hearing that it's on the rocks because of what happened to me was kind of surreal. I didn't really know how to respond. Part of me felt bad for him because it sounded like he was genuinely struggling, but another part of me was just kind of numb. I told him that while I appreciated the apology, it didn't change the fact that my mom had treated me like crap. He nodded, saying he understood, but then he asked if I'd be willing to talk to my mom again, maybe help him figure things out between them. That's where I had to draw the line. I told him flat out that I wasn't interested in playing mediator between them. I have my own life to worry about now, and I'm not about to get dragged back into their drama. He looked pretty defeated after I said that. He thanked me for meeting up and left, and I thought that was the end of it. But a few days later, I got another message, this time from my mom. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. She said she'd heard about my meeting with my stepdad and wanted to talk. At first, I didn't respond, but she kept messaging, saying she was sorry and that she missed me. She even tried to guilt-trip me, saying that I was tearing the family apart by refusing to help. It's been a roller coaster of emotions since then. I thought cutting them off would be the hardest part, but dealing with their attempts to pull me back in is even worse. I still haven't responded to my mom, and I'm not sure I want to. Part of me wonders if she's just trying to manipulate me again, especially now that things aren't going so well for her and my stepdad. To make things even more complicated, I recently found out through some mutual friends that Jackson and Emma have been telling people at school that I'm the reason their dad might leave their mom. They're basically painting me as the villain in this whole situation, which really sucks. I've been getting weird looks from some of our mutual acquaintances, and a couple of people even unfollowed me on social media. It's like high school drama all over again, but now it's bleeding into my college life too. And if that wasn't enough, my mom has apparently been telling people that I'm ungrateful and that I abandoned the family over something trivial. She's playing the victim card hard, and it's working because some of her friends, and even some of our extended family members, have been reaching out to me, telling me I should reconcile with her. They're saying things like, "She's your mother, you only get one," and "family is everything." But where was that family loyalty when I was being treated like an outsider in my own home? It's all so hypocritical. One of the hardest parts of all this has been the feeling of isolation. Even though I'm surrounded by new friends at college and my roommate has been awesome, I still feel this deep sense of loneliness. I always thought that once I got out of that toxic environment, everything would magically get better, but I'm realizing now that the scars from that time are going to take a lot longer to heal. I've been seeing a therapist on campus to help me work through all of this, which has been really helpful. She's helping me see that it's okay to set boundaries with my family, and that I don't owe them anything just because we're related. That's been a tough pill to swallow because I was raised to believe that family always comes first, no matter what. But at the same time, I can't keep sacrificing my own well-being for people who don't really care about me. Meanwhile, things with my mom and stepdad are apparently getting worse. My stepdad texted me again last week, saying that he's moving out and looking for his own place. He said he couldn't take the constant fighting anymore, and that he needed some space to figure things out. He asked if I wanted to stay in touch, but I told him I wasn't sure. I'm still processing everything, and I don't want to get too involved in their problems. It's weird because for so long, I didn't really consider him part of my family, but now that he's reaching out to me, I'm starting to see that maybe he's not as bad as I thought. But I'm still wary of getting too close. To add to the chaos, my mom showed up at my campus last weekend. I wasn't expecting it at all. She texted me saying she was in town and wanted to see me. I didn't respond, but somehow she found out where I was living. She showed up at my dorm, and my roommate let her in because she thought it was just a regular visit from a parent. When I walked into the room and saw her sitting on my bed, I nearly lost it. She started off acting all sweet, saying she missed me and wanted to talk things through, but as soon as I told her I wasn't interested, she flipped. She started yelling, saying I was being selfish and ungrateful, that I was ruining the family. She even tried to bring up my dad again, saying he'd be ashamed of how I was acting. I couldn't believe she was using my dad to guilt-trip me. I told her to leave, but she wouldn't. She just kept going on and on about how I was tearing the family apart. My roommate eventually stepped in and told her she needed to go, which only made things worse. My mom started yelling at her too, saying she had no right to get involved in our family matters. It got so bad that campus security had to be called to escort her out. It was beyond embarrassing, and now my roommate knows way more about my family drama than I ever wanted her to. Since then, I've been trying to lay low. I haven't heard from my mom since that day, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time before she tries to contact me again. I'm honestly at my breaking point with all of this. I just want to move on with my life and focus on my future, but it feels like every time I try, something else pulls me back into the mess I left behind. I know I need to keep my distance and focus on myself, but it's so hard when the people who are supposed to care about you are the ones causing all the pain. I'm trying to stay strong and remember that I deserve better than how they've treated me, but some days, it's tough to keep that perspective. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through all of this. Writing it all out helps a little, even if it doesn't fix anything. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and hope that things eventually get better. If anything else happens, I'll keep you guys updated, but for now, I'm just trying to survive each day as it comes.